Okay, welcome to our first video here in Excel 2010, the beginner level. We're going to be looking at just the most basic functions here of Excel. There's going to be a lot of explanation going on in this video, more so than actually doing, but hey, you got to crawl before you can walk, right? So let's get in here and talk about the different parts that make up Excel 2010. I'm going to go over the interface first so we can get a better understanding of what everything does here. You're going to see in the top leftmost area a whole bunch of different icons here, and this is called your quick access toolbar. This is great for a lot of those functions you need to use. It's a real nice convenient area for quick access to all those common tools that you're going to be finding yourself using. By default, you're given a couple of the most common tools here. You've got a save button, you've got a undo and a redo button. And we'll get into more of the functionality a little bit later, but just want to show you how you can customize this area up here. It comes in real handy for a bunch of the different common features you're going to find yourself doing over and over. You're going to see to the right a small drop down button. If I click on this, you're going to notice that I have a list of some of the other common actions that I can use throughout the program. I've got a new here, I've got open, quick print, which is great if you're printing a lot. Spell check, all sorts of common tools here. So if I click on any of these lists, for example new, I'm going to get a new icon up here, and this button will allow me to open up a new, or I'm sorry, not open, but start a new workbook. In addition, if you don't see any of those common tools that you're going to use throughout the program, you can go all the way down to the bottom here and choose more commands. This will open you to a new window, and here I have the option of adding all sorts of different actions throughout Excel that I can use. They're going to be separated by this drop down up here. It says popular commands, but if I click on that, I can choose all these different items within different categories. For example, my macros, it's going to list all the different actions. Well, for this one there's not much, right? But I can go down to things like, let's say all commands. Let's see every single thing that I can add to that quick access toolbar, from clear pivot chart, right? We may not even know what that is yet, but we'll learn, to things like a dollar sign symbol, edit links, right? There's all sorts of cool stuff you can add to that quick access toolbar. So I'm going to go ahead and add new. If you want, feel free to add it with me if you'd like. I'm going to go down to maybe close. I think I'll probably be using that a lot. So I'm going to just scroll through here and see if I could find my close button. And there's actually a whole bunch of closes. I'm just going to choose my basic close here, and I add it by just clicking on this middle button. You'll see it'll go to the right when I click OK. You'll notice I got my close button in my quick access toolbar. If I ever want to remove any, I can go through the same procedure. I can go and click on this drop down, go down to more commands, and I can just select one of these that I don't need, for example close, and click on remove. However, there's a much more efficient way of doing this. If I just right click on any of these existing items, I can go down and choose remove from quick access toolbar right here, right? And that would get rid of that icon as well. Okay, so that's your quick access toolbar, a real handy area for accessing items that you commonly use. In the middle top, we've got, of course, our title bar. This tells you what file you have open, tells you what program you're using. I hope you know that already though. In the top right, you have your window buttons. You have your minimize, you have your restore or maximize, and your close button. So you want to be careful with this close button because that will indeed close the whole program. In addition, underneath those three window buttons, you have another set that look very similar. You have, again, a minimize, restore, and a close. But be careful, these are not program related, these are your spreadsheet related controls. So if I hit the minimize button here, that's still going to keep the program window in its existing size, but you'll see down here my spreadsheet has now minimized to the bottom left. I'm going to go ahead and hit the middle maximize button to bring it back up. Okay, so just make sure you differentiate between those two different sets. Let's talk about the ribbon. Now this was new from Microsoft Office 2007, and it's here to stay in 2010 whether you like it or not. So it's probably a good idea to get used to it. You have these different tabs starting with File, Home, Insert, all the way over to View. And it's this nice kind of horizontal tabular interface. I tend to like it. I think it makes it real intuitive, real accessible for all the different tools you can use, because it puts all those features right up in your face in different icons. so it's much easier to see what's available. And it's set up basically so the more commonly used tools are going to be in the leftmost tab. So this home tab, for example, has got a lot of the more commonly used tools as opposed to the review tab, for example, or the data tab, right? So let's start off with home here. You're going to notice within each tab that you have different groups. They're separated by these gray bars. So and it tells you the name of the group at the bottom. So here's the clipboard group. It's got all my clipboard tools like cut, copy, paste. I've got my font group here. It's got all those font tools that we're going to be using, including changing the font, making it bigger, making your text smaller, bold, italics, underline, borders, all that fun stuff in font. Alignment, of course, works with all your alignment tools. I won't go down each and every one of these, but I think you get the point. You'll notice, and I would say maybe 80-90% of these, you're going to have these bottom right little arrows. And these contain additional tools that are related to this specific group that you're in. So, for example, my font group here, in the bottom right, this arrow, these are called dialog box launchers. And you don't have to remember that, but if you click on one of these, it's going to open up into another window, which will give you additional tools that are related to that group. So here I've got all sorts of more font tools that I can use that perhaps aren't all that commonly used on your, so they're not on your ribbon, but I can choose things like strike through or subscript or superscript, right? All sorts of more detailed tools available in those dialog box windows. So if you don't see something immediately that you're looking for, just do a quick check and see if it's got a dialog box window launcher, and you might find it in there. Okay, so let's move on here. Beneath your ribbon, you have your this is your formula bar. It's this long text area that you can put in general text, you can put in calculations, you can put in all sorts of stuff in here. We're going to be making use of that a lot through our upcoming videos, so just make sure when I talk about the formula bar, you know that I'm talking about this area here. Okay. To the left of that, you've got your name box. We'll go over what this means in a little bit. It's just basically telling you where you are within your spreadsheet, right? And what I mean by spreadsheet is, well, basically this workspace area down here. And it consists of a couple different things. You've got columns, which are indicated by your different letters, right? So column A, B, C, D, and so on. And then you have your rows indicated by the numbers. So row 1 all the way down to, well, who knows, in the thousands, if not millions. The intersection between your columns and your rows are your cells, and you're going to see the active cell, which is the cell you have selected, is indicated by this black border, right? You'll also notice that that's what your name box is telling you. So I'm in C4, and that's what my name box has in it right there. Okay, so your cells again are indicated by first the column letter and then the row name. So this is C4, we've got, this is F7, A1 is where you're always going to be starting though. That's just the default location. Okay. Moving on, beneath that you have your different sheets here. Okay, and a worksheet or a spreadsheet means the same thing. This is just basically an independently contained area within your workbook. Okay, so don't get too thrown by all the terminology here that I'm talking about. Just to go over here, we have 3 worksheets, right? You can think of this as your workspace, and a workbook by default contains 3 worksheets. Okay, so you can kind of think of your file, right, that you have open. For example, I've got book 1 open here. Your file contains by default 3 worksheets. Now you can add or you can subtract as many of these worksheets as you want. We'll be doing this a little bit later, but just to keep those things separate, right, you have your worksheets down here you can switch through, which make up your workbook. Okay, next to that you have, of course, your horizontal scroll bar. You've got your vertical scroll bar. This will just allow you to move within your worksheet. Okay, and finally, in the very bottom, you have what's called your status bar. It's this gray bar here at the bottom. You'll see in the bottom left it says ready. This just tells you what mode you're in, right? And now essentially that ready means that it's just waiting for you to do something, waiting for you to use the program, which we will be in our next video. To the right of that, your status bar just kind of gives you cues as to what's going on while you use the program. And I can customize what messages come up here by right-clicking the status bar. And as you can see, we've got a whole number of selections, so I can check this caps locks, for example, and if I check that, now when I use the program and I hit caps locks, guess what's going to show up down here? My caps lock indication, right? So again, you right click the status bar, you can change what shows up, you can customize this to your liking, you can have as many things show up as you want or as few show up as you need. Okay, so that's down here to the right of your status bar. You have 3 little tiny icons. These are your different views. So if I click on these, you'll see it gives me different views of my information in my spreadsheet. We'll be going through those too. And then to the far bottom right, you have your zoom controls. Okay, so you can zoom in and out. If I click on the 100%, I can manually adjust how zoomed in or out I want to be. So if I click 75%, it kind of shrinks things. Useful if you have a lot of stuff on your spreadsheet that you're working with. And you can also slide. If I click on this little triangle looking thing and drag to the right or left, you'll notice that I can very easily zoom in or out as much as I need. And these plus and minus buttons work very similarly. Okay, so I hope that gives you a better idea of your workspace. In our next video, we're going to be jumping into making use of the program.